Is that too loud or is that okay? Can you hear me? So good morning. That's better. I was sure you couldn't hear me at once. So just before I bring the word, I'd just like to give you a little bit of a kind of update, a bit of what's kind of going on really. We have exciting times ahead of us. You know, Kerry and I have come across the garden with our family, and we're working with Jonathan and Sandra over these next few months. And there will be, you would have noticed, some changes already that are starting to filter through. We're really looking to seek God and see what He wants to do in the next season of this church, of His church. And so there are going to be some things coming in the following weeks and months that you might notice will be a little bit different than what's happened before. We are going to be starting in September a course called Christianity Explored, which we're going to be kind of inviting our new members and people that we see who could do with reviewing the gospel message. So this is a short course of 8 weeks based around Mark's gospel, and it's really quite powerful. It's really about, you know, the statement of the course is what's it all about. So it really is what is the purpose of us being here. So we will be talking more about that in the coming weeks. But that starts the first week of September, so look forward to that. That'll be on a Wednesday evening, a little bite to eat first, and then come some short videos and short chats around that. So if there's anybody who doesn't get asked, it's not because you're not welcome. Just come and speak to myself or Kerry and say we'd like to come along, and then we can discuss that when we've looked at size and stuff. So that'd be great. So don't worry, everything that we have in plan is we're looking for God's vision and God's mission in our church, but there will probably be some bumps along the way, so bear with us. Thank you. Right, if you'd like to turn to Isaiah 61 in your Bibles. My message title, which was given to me quite a few weeks ago, is called Wounds and Scars. Not something particularly we'd like to talk about most of the time. But I'm going to read the text, Isaiah 61:3. We shall read it now and we shall come back to it later, because it kind of is part of the conclusion of the message, but just something to bear in mind while we're going along. To grant those who mourn in Zion and give them a beautiful headdress instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the garment of praise instead of faint spirit, that they may be called as oaks of righteousness, and planting of the Lord, that He may be glorified. The phrase I want to maintain out of that passage is the beauty to ashes. So as we talk this morning, just kind of focus that in the back of your mind. I just want to talk to you a little bit about my life, but hopefully a little bit about your life and how it's been, how these things affect us. Now, as I was kind of mulling over the message and meditating on Scripture, it was actually Kerry's words were wounds and scars. We were talking about this, it came to us. And I was really we group them in to the same kind of thing, a wound, a scar, a scab. We think, it's a hurt. It's something that's wrong. We don't when we look at separating those apart, of actually, what are they? So, look them up in the dictionary. A wound is an injury to living tissue caused by a cut, blow, or other impact. Now, a living tissue, it can also be our living spirit. So bear that in mind. A scar, a mark left on the body or within the body tissue follow the healing of a wound, burn or sore. So there is a difference. Scars, sometimes they still hurt a little bit. There's still some there, as scars get older, they kind of fade. But we can carry a wound when we think it's a scar around for years. We think we've had a healing, when really we have a scab. There's another one we throw in there. What's a scab? A scab is a dry or rough protective crust that forms over a cut or wound during healing. We've all had a scab. It gets itchy, it comes off, you knock it on the table leg, or you knock it on something and it comes off, or if you're me, you pick it. I'm a terrible person for picking scabs. So if you've got a scab, don't come near me, because I'm likely to pick it. Not very pleasant, I know. So anyway, I'm not sure I shared this, it might have been on the church weekend, about a time when my mum used this fake skin on me. I was a bit of a skateboarder when I was into riding BMX, and I'd ride up and down stairs and trampolines and all sorts of things, just things that they weren't meant for. And I came back the one day, and I still have the scar, you probably can't see it, but on my arm I came back with this massive kind of, when you slide across tarmac and you lose all your skin, and you have bits of grit ingrained in it and it hurts. Well, that was happening all down my arm. And my mum, she was amazing. I didn't think so 5 minutes later, but she's got this stuff, and it was like, new skin. And Mum's like, this is awesome. I said, have you used it? She went, no. Okay. So it's like this pipette pasty thing that she got this liquid out and put it on my skin, and she said, it's fine, it's like skin, it will heal it, protect it. I go, no Mum, it's fine, I'm just going back outside. She said, no, it's great, it's fine. She put this stuff on, I squealed. It was so painful, it hurt. Part of the message is that sometimes healing hurts. But anyway, I squealed, I was screaming, I was like, Mum, that's going to, don't be such a wuss, it's fine, it's just a bit of liquid. So I cried, and I was 22, no I wasn't, I was 12-ish. This hurt, and actually it was quite vile actually, because when a wound starts healing and it goes all pussy sometimes and yellowy, it was like I had this big yellow blister plaster on my arm, it was vile. So I started picking anyway. That's the side of stories, that actually really hurt, and Mum put this stuff on thinking that this was going to heal it, but actually it just created an atmosphere for all this pus to manifest itself. And actually, just as a side, my mum, which we'll talk about later maybe, she died a few years later, and she said to me the one day, said, son, I said, what? I said, do you remember the day of the famous plastic skin? Well, that's etched in my memory, will be there forever. And she said, you know what, I had a small cut the one day, and I used it. It hurt. Sorry. Bless her. So she was always ready to admit when she was wrong. She was amazing. And that's actually been one of my wounds. My mum died when I was 19. And I still feel myself, choke myself up about it now. It's still something I receive daily. I have to give that to her. Mum was my best friend at the time. I was the youngest of three. My sister had died a year and 2 weeks beforehand. They were both ill at the same time. My mum had been ill first, and she had 7 brain tumours. Then my sister had a tumour in her leg, the size of a rugby ball. The doctor had told her it was a Baker cyst, take some aspirin and go home. And she actually ended up having a leg amputated from between the knee and the hip. I gave my life to Christ in 1984, so I was 11. I was now 16, 17 when this started happening in my life. I was quite young. I thought I was stronger. 16 to start my apprenticeship, I was like, yes. I was 6'1" when I was like 13, so I've just got wider. So it's just, I've been in this house, so I thought, yeah, I'm a big lad. I can deal with it. Mum became ill, Steffi became ill. Steffi died 6 months later. She was given a lifetime. After that, she said she had secondaries, she was given a lifetime, but the chemo was not working. She made a very brave decision to stop the chemo because she actually wanted a better quality of life for the short period of life that she had left with us than actually being ill for 2 out of 3 weeks, and knowing that she was going to die weeks after that anyway. She was incredibly brave. But that knocked my faith. I was really quite upset by that. Obviously she was my sister, she was a couple of years older than me. But I still kind of fought with that. I wrestled with God with that. I still had my faith. I still kept my faith. A year and 2 weeks later, Mum had been kind of up and down. She'd been in remission. But the last few months, it was almost like she wanted to see the anniversary of Steffi's death for us to be able to get through it. Because those last 2 weeks, she was not kind of with it in any way. She was high on morphine. Her spine basically crumbled. So she wasn't mobile at all. And I remember the last day it was Jesus take me home, Jesus take me home. And on that day he took her home. But it takes part of me with her. That is still a wound that I carry, that I am still seeking God for and seeking healing. I lost my faith then. I turned my back on God for 20 years. We call them the wilderness years. Really should have been called the wasted years. I spent most of that time drinking. And I had a real alcohol problem. I turned my back on God. Why? I don't know. I'm going to discuss that a little bit more. It seemed the right thing to do. That was a wound. It now is a scar. But a scar gets a little bit of irritation sometimes. God still has some work to do with me on that. And that's really what I want to talk to everybody today about. Because we carry wounds when we should be carrying scars. Because a scar is a sign of a victorious battle. It's a sign that I have healed. But we're not, we all going to go through those journeys. We all are work in progress. We all have our deaths in our lives. We all have, whether it's our mom, our sister, our aunt, or whatever. We all have these things. It might not be a death of that nature. It could be, a car crash or whatever it could be. But we all have those things. So we all have those. A relationship that's not gone right. So my first point is when bad things happen, we will never truly understand why. Why do good things happen? Bad things happen to good people. I won't understand that. I don't get it. I think as a family we grew up, we were quite normal. 2.4, apart those three of us. 2.4 children. We went to church regularly. Christmas, New Year, Easter, weddings, funerals. That's good. We were regular churchgoers, typical Anglicans. We went and we did. My dad was a bell ringer. So I spent most of my time in the bell tower actually. So we were quite a good family. What most people think. We didn't we wouldn't act harm people. The family were hard working. My mum was a great mum. So I never really understood why all this happened to us and why things happen to other people. So we really will never understand why. But Dr. James Dobson once said, for us to try and understand God's ways is like an amoeba, so the smallest kind of living creature, part of cell of ourselves. An amoeba is how the human body works. It just can't, it's not possible. It's not possible for something with the intelligence of an amoeba, this single cell organism, to understand how something as complex as us works. So why would we consider it's possible for us to figure out why everything goes on the way it does when we are just, a human? We're made in his image, but we're still just human when he's the creator. How possible is that for us to grasp that? It's just one of those things. We just can't do it. We can't do it. As a 5-year-old, understanding, astrophysics isn't going to happen. Doesn't mean to say that there's not going to be some indication of what might happen, but it isn't going to happen at the moment. When the chips are down, I found that, and we really find out how strong our faith is. We really find, it's all well and good. We're saying, I have a really strong faith. When things are looking good, when things are fine, things are all rosy in your life, it's really, really easy to get, yes, I believe in you, God, he's my rock, he's my salvation. But when the chips are down, how difficult is it? A crisis in our lives usually ends up with a crisis in our beliefs. So a crisis in our lives ends up with a spiritual crisis. There are 3 ways that I could have responded to what happened in my life. Now the first one, make a note of these if you want to. God was not powerful enough to stop what happened. Does anybody in this room believe that God was not powerful enough? I knew that. He's powerful enough. He made me. The second response was God was powerful enough, but simply didn't care enough. Now even as a Christian who was losing my faith, even I knew that wasn't the case. God does care. If he didn't care, why did he create us in the first place? And the third one is God allowed it to happen. Allowed. But he has some greater purpose for it. Now, things happen in our lives which God allows to happen. He gave us free will. That's why part of the reason we're in the mess we're in the first place. But He gave us the choice. I don't want the love that I receive from my kids to be forced to be because they've been told they've got to say that they love me. And trust me, there's times when they don't. Or don't like me. Hopefully they still love me. But anyway, there are times, God wants us to make that choice to love Him, not because they have to, because we have to. So, the 3 points. God was not powerful enough to stop what happened. God was powerful enough, but simply didn't care enough. Or God allowed it to happen, but He has some greater purpose. So how did I respond? I spent the next 20 years of my life focused on my careers in my chosen career in sales. God wasn't my idol, money was my idol. And the way that I dealt with life, the stress, the strains, the grief that I had, was to drink. I'm guessing that probably wasn't the right thing to do, the right choice that I could have made. But it was the way that I dealt with it. So I had lots of anger, had lots of bitterness and addictions. Which leads me on to my second point being is the fact that these things happen. But I still get to make a choice. We do get to make choices. So 20 years on, I know God was pursuing me. He pursued me in the pub as it happened. He pursued me via the means of Facebook through Kerry. Kerry was putting these amazing, encouraging things on Facebook for me. I'd only not long been on Facebook. It was something I didn't really want to be. This is not an endorsement of any specific social media. Feel free to use none of them. But I knew God was pursuing me. God was chasing me. God knew that I could feel that. And over 20 years, there was things that happened in my life that I've explained it before, that I was kind of looked over my shoulder just to make sure He was there. Because the belief I had was strong, but not strong enough to carry me through. But I knew. It's Kerry calls it the knower. I know what's in. I know what's happening. I knew that God did exist. And if I was honest, I was really angry. So I had a choice. We all get choices. I had to make a choice. Did I want to be healed? Now, Jonathan preached a while back about the healing at the pool in Bethsaida, which is in John 5. And Jesus said to the cripple, He said, and then there's this guy who, for those who don't recall the story, there's this guy for 30 years so has been laid at the pool, and as the Spirit kind of the Spirit troubles the water, it moves the water. There was the first person to get in the water would be healed. And this guy was a cripple. And he's like, but there's no one here to help me. By the time I get up and I roll down the bank and whatever, there was no one to help him to get into the water. And Jesus said to him, do you want to be healed? Because you think over 30 years he would have etched a little bit, just on the off chance that, and a bit more, on the off chance that it's going to come again soon. So you'll be poised at the edge of the pool, ready to be the first person to fall in. So the question is, Jesus said, do you want to be healed? I think a lot of us, we carry our wounds. Not scars, we carry our wounds. And I'm talking, there's things in my own life that, I'm preaching to myself first before I preach to anyone else. We carry the wounds because actually healing requires a drastic change in our lives. Why did Jesus ask? He knew that actually by asking the question and being healed, it would drastically change the guy's life. Because A, he could walk, he'd probably have to get a job. He would have to find somewhere to live because he couldn't sit there and beg anymore. So it's going to change his life. Are we ready for that? Are we ready for our lives to be changed? And we have to ask ourselves, for 20 years I wasn't. I was kind of happy with the numbing effect of the alcohol that was having on my life because I wasn't ready. I was still angry. And it took me a long time to actually realise I was angry. My dad, was still a Christian, still doing his thing, and he got his faith very stronger. And he was like, don't be angry with God. And my response was, I can't be angry with someone I don't believe in. And what I didn't mean was I don't believe there's a God, because I still believe there's a God, but I didn't believe He cared. So I didn't believe in him as a person, because I would be, well, we have to be a bit naive to think the earth happened just out of the Big Bang. There's another sermon. We get comfortable with our wound. We kind of, a bit vague. We're walking around and we've got a bit comfortable. Les, I'm going to use you where I always in there, so he doesn't know I'm using him. But he's just had this knee operation, and over a period of time, I'm sure the pain has lessened. And he's got there, and actually, if you put on a scale of 1 to 10, there's probably still a 4 or 5 amount of pain in that, although it's getting better. But he's probably become more comfortable with it. And he's thinking, well, if I don't do this, if I don't walk 10 miles, it's not going to hurt, but I can get to the kettle. So we get comfortable with it. So we kind of, I don't want to say that we wallow in those wounds and stuff like that, but we get used to having them. We walk with a limp. We don't write with our left hand when we write with our right for whatever reason, or we don't carry our rucksack on our left shoulder because I've got a sore shoulder. We kind of cope, we get through it. So are you comfortable with your wound? Has it just become part of your life? Are you ready to be healed? Because if you're not ready to be healed, because of the changes it will have on your life, then you're not really saying, you're not submitting it to that healing process. You're not saying, yes, Lord, I want to be healed. Because if you're not ready, and you're too comfortable, you're not prepared for the amount of stuff that's going to change in your life. Because it will change your life. We have to make choices in that, because we have to make that choice of being ready to heal. And there's still, and I'm saying there are times, there's things in my life that I still need to give to God. I'm far from perfect. There's still healings that I need to go through. And it is really hard. And I don't mean to offend or upset anybody and say anything that is not unloving to anybody. But sometimes we really just need to challenge ourselves a little bit. And I know I'm challenging myself in what I'm saying. But we need to make those choices. We need today make a choice. Are you ready to forgive people? Because actually a lot of wounds come out of forgiveness. A lot of emotional, spiritual wounds actually come because somebody's hurt us. Somebody's said something to us and we're harbouring that hurt. Are we ready to forgive? But also, are we ready to be forgiven? Are we ready to say, Lord, forgive me? He is free. He's died on the cross. We looked at we gave communion, or took communion this morning. He's already paid the price. We are forgiven already. We just need to accept that. We just need to say, yes, I'm ready. But there are going to be some people that we're going to have to forgive. And there's going to be some people that I'm going to have to seek forgiveness from. There might be people that we don't see, we haven't seen for a very long time, and it might not be possible to physically forgive them. So you need to give that to the Lord, and you need to say, Lord, I forgive those people, or I seek forgiveness from those people, those times. But if you can, it's one of those things you need to work through with the Lord. Pray about it. He will guide you on what you need to do and the process that you need to go through. Unless you forgive and be forgiven, you'll never be healed. The times that I went through blaming doctors for my mum and my sister dying, I wouldn't go near a doctor. I was like, useless. My mum and my sister died, you're not any good to me. And what you're saying, I still don't. Yeah, and then let me tell you, I still don't really trust doctors, to be fair, because I find them a bit of a waste of time. They know more than me, but simple things. So thank you, Ali, for encouraging me there to share. But unless we forgive, so I have kind of forgiven those doctors. I think pressures on people nowadays are so extreme that you just have to keep pushing sometimes. So it's kind of, they've trained for years, I haven't. So anyway, and you need to be ready to forgive. So there's a second point, is choose to be healed. My third point is show your scars. Now, I remember seeing a film, I think, I'm not going into what film it was, but there was a film and a couple of cops were sat down and they were like going, oh look, I've got this, and this was when I was shot by so-and-so and it's been healed, and I was like, that was remembered, it brought a story up and they were talking about it. I got knifed by so-and-so in the shoulder, this was this, and they were telling about when these scars, they were memories. At the time they really hurt, but now they're healed, it's a scar. And they can say, oh, you know, that was a great battle, that was this. And we went through that, so they are battle scars. Now, some people, I know you probably remember in the film I'm talking about, yes. So, but I'm not going back my misspent youth on what films I've watched. So why do we show our scars? Jesus showed his scars. Yes. There's a story, Cleopas, and on the road to Damascus, there was Cleopas owned an unnamed friend, could have been his wife, could have been another disciple. But for the whole journey along, they didn't know who Jesus was. He kept who he was from them, and they discussed this Jesus of Nazareth, what had happened, the resurrection. It wasn't until that point, and I have to steal this point from a preacher I watched quite a lot of time, was the fact that actually, and conveniently, we had communion this morning, but the point that they recognised Jesus, I'm going to have to put this down, was Jesus was giving communion and he broke the bread. At that point he showed his scars. At that point, they became aware of who Jesus was. So, Jesus showed his scars to people as a kind of thing. He showed them to Thomas as a disbeliever, the doubting Thomas. Unfortunately, for one question for the entire life and history onwards, he gets called Doubting Thomas. Do we make one mistake and do we want to have that around our neck for the rest of life? I don't. Poor Tom. Or did he listen? So, it just got me thinking, the whole point about Jesus showing the scars, and I was thinking, who was Jesus as a person? Not only is he my Messiah, not only is he the guy that died for that was a bit irreverent, my God, that died for us. But you know what, in human terms, he was a carpenter. Now, I'm a bit of a frustrated carpenter myself, and I have some company of another master carpenter in the room. So correct me as my points that I get wrong here, but hopefully I kind of take a bit of time spending reading about biblical carpentry and some of the things that Jesus might have used. And in time with how we show our scars, was that actually I've got a few points of what scars were and what Jesus, I kind of not intended scars to be, but is using the scars for. So, scars show the healing power of the Lord, because he's the creator and he's the restorer. So he's our creator, he made us, and the scars are where he's re-stitched us together. You know, you quite often see a scar with wounds either side of it where the stitches are gone. But Jesus is our creator and he's our restorer. The same way as he makes a bit of furniture, that he can create that table, but then the table leg might get broken. But rather than throwing that table away because it's an amazing piece of carpentry, he will take that to one side, he will scarf a joint in there, he will do something, he will put a fresh piece of wood in there, he will take out the rotten piece maybe and put it back with a fresh, restored point. And quite often, those fixes are stronger than the original item was in the first place. So scars show the healing power of our Lord. Scars keep us from making or repeating mistakes. Because if you've been hurt, you've got something, you think, oh, that hurt, you'll see that scar. Now, in carpentry terms, we have knots. Now, a knot in a tree, when it grows, is normally either comes around under the root or where something has, there's been a setback or a failure in that tree as it's grown. So there's been something it's either had to grow around or it's had to do something. So there's been knockbacks and setbacks in our update for. So the scars are stopping us to repeat mistakes. Hopefully we can remember from what those scars are, what happened. We all can say, oh, that scar was, that scar was from, I've got a scar from my forehead from when I was 9 playing dinosaurs. I remember that still. I still remember the thing that had happened with my friend. So that scar reminds us of what we did, and hopefully will stop us from making that same mistake again. Scars are actually draw us closer to Christ. In Jesus' time, the sword, we have dual tooth facing swords now, so we want to push and pull, it actually makes a cut. But then he would have only used a saw that would cut only one way. But the thing about that saw is actually it would cut on the backstroke, back towards you. So as Jesus is making maybe a cut of something out of your life that needs to be restored or healed, he's actually drawing you closer to him as he's making that cut in your life of something that shouldn't be there, a sin or a emotion or a scar or something. So he's actually drawing you back to him. So he's not making making cuts in your life and healing you without actually drawing you closer. So he's showing you that he loves you and he's bringing you closer. So there's a couple of other things in this tool chest that always excite me. Is the saw, but the claw hammer. So we can use the hammer and we can bang the nail into make things. But if we make a mistake, we've got the claw on the other side. We can use that, and Jesus uses that to take that out, to straighten the nail and to pull the nail out where we may have made a mistake and put wrong or put right what we've made wrong. And then there's the love chisel, as I've called it. So we have some chisels, and there's sometimes he just needs to knock some corners off us. And those scars in our life might be something that's happened, and Jesus has taken those away. But there's that chisel that he's done to help mould us. So God will always use our wounds to make us someone and something better than what we maybe originally have done. He will not waste anything in our lives. And scars allow us to help others. If you didn't have a scar, you say, oh, I broke my leg, a massive cut in there. And people say, yeah, I can't see it. I don't know. How do I know? You proved it. But you see somebody say, whoa, where'd you get that scar from? You said, you know what? I've got a story. My mum put some down. And actually for another, there's something called burl, which is the diseased wood. So something you see go through, and you quite often see they use it in guitars a lot, or quite marketry stuff. You see that's like bits of black wood in various colours, and it actually has beautiful patterns. But it actually becomes the most prized wood. It becomes the most prized wood where it's gone through trials and tribulations, and it's been used. And Jesus will show that in your scars and your lives, so you become more prized. So really, just bringing me on to my final point today is that the message of the Isaiah 61 is that there's beauty from ashes. What we might see as failures, what we might see as problems, what we might see as things that have gone wrong in our life, God will use and restore them into and give us a beautiful headdress, or give us a crown of glory, give us something that we can actually say, do you know what? I got through. Also means that when you've gone through things, when you talk to someone and you're helping someone, you can say, me too. I've been there. I've been through that. And people can come alongside you and say, or you can come alongside people and say, oh, do you know what? I've been that. We're real. We're human. We have our issues. God will use your deepest or our deepest hurt to probably develop your greatest ministry. He will develop that into something that people will see, that the hurt that you've gone through often becomes your greatest passion, because you don't want to see other people go through that. And you want to be there, and people will understand that. It gives us the opportunity to invest in other people because of the struggles we've gone through ourselves. So for this very reason, we shouldn't despair when we experience painful circumstances. Rather, we should actually look to see how God is going to use those, and how God is going to use those circumstances and to help other people. If we allow God to replace our wounds with scars, He will actually, if we're willing to let God use those scars, He will actually therefore redeem those experiences, so that we can, our most painful experiences, He will redeem those experiences into something that will actually bring, hope in the future to other people. So why don't we understand? We don't understand the bad things the bad things that happen to good people. There's a verse in the Bible, Deuteronomy 29:29, which is the secret things belong to our Lord our God, but the things that are revealed to us belong to us and our children. I've kind of held on to that as a scripture in my life, because it's been like, I don't understand all the bits and pieces, but God understands everything. He knows everything there is to know. But I know, and He releases to us the things, and to our children, the things we understand, and the things that we're going to take forward. He releases that to us, and it becomes ours. If we knew what God knew, we'd probably explode. We don't have the capability to understand what God knows. So the point being is that God knows why. We don't understand why sometimes. but God has a plan for that. And if we just trust and we keep in His will and His ways, then we will be, we will be safe in the knowledge that actually there is a purpose. That I'm not quite sure, but there is a purpose to my pain. I'm not in a position to question the Creator, the person who made me, who made this world, who made everything. I'm not in a position or authority to question why things happen. So we just have to trust in Him. It is really, really hard sometimes. It's really hard. We've been there. I've been there. He wants you to be healed. Do you want to be healed? Are you ready to be healed? There was Joshua I've spoken about before. There was a time that actually they went through a very painful experience just before they went to battle, where they were circumcised, and there's a time in that where they actually had, it says, when they were healed, they went into action. We need to go through a healing process. Sometimes we're going to be called to action. So if we need to be ready to be healed, so that we can go through that place, that we can be called into action by Him for His service, for whatever that might be. But what we need to do is we need to stand and walk in victory. Show our battle scars. Show them with pride. Say, I am okay. I'm got through this. At the time, we don't always see why, but there is a purpose to every scar. So, quite a personal message for me, but I hope there's been some benefit from my experiences and my scars that I can share with you, and hope that you will be able to sense some healing in the areas of your life. If you want to come and pray with us, we're going to tell you if you'd like to play a song for us. We're going to, in a moment, we're going to have a time in ministry. If there are things in your life that you would like to receive prayer for, either physical healing, spiritual healing, emotional healing, come and speak to Kerry, myself, John and Sandra, and whoever is at the front will pray for you. And let's try and make some of these wounds that you have in some scars. Things don't always happen overnight. Sometimes things take time. But we're here to work that journey with you. So we welcome the time for you to come. So let me just pray. Heavenly Father,